This is KGW News at Sunrise.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for getting up with us on this Saturday morning. I'm Tim Gordon. This morning on Sunrise, the new video and interviews taking us inside a tragic case of mistaken identity that left a police officer dead in Vancouver. Plus, why pilots lined up in front of PDX instead of getting in the cockpit. But before we get to all that, let's check in with Joe Ranieri for a quick look at the forecast. Good morning, Joe.
Hey, good morning to you, Tim. And for the first weekend of April, we are going to be waking up to some light showers. A weak frontal boundary passed overnight, bringing in some light showers. And that's basically what we're going to be seeing here for the first couple of hours to start off the day. And you can see already seeing some drier weather. For the most part, you're going to be seeing some dry conditions to start off this morning. But along the foothills of the mountains, picking up some light showers near Sandy and throughout the Oregon Cascades, a little bit of some snow. You're going to be seeing plenty of snow late this weekend. And as we look at the amount of rainfall we could be seeing here heading into the next couple of days or so, light amounts today, and then we're going to be looking at a weak atmospheric river that arrives late tomorrow afternoon and into Monday, bringing in potentially over an inch of rain in a few locations. Right now, we are looking at temperatures to start things off in the mid to the upper 40s. Winds are pretty light coming in from the southwest, about 3 miles per hour. Coming up in my detailed forecast, Tim, we are going to be seeing some kind of stormy conditions by tomorrow night and into Monday, but I have in the extended forecast a little bit of a warm up. I'll talk more about that in just a few minutes.
Okay, Joe, thanks a lot. Well, this is a heartbreaking report. We're learning more about the shooting death of an off-duty Vancouver police officer by a sheriff's deputy. New details, including drone video, begin to shed light on what went wrong. You may remember that a Clark County Sheriff's deputy said he believed he was shooting a robbery suspect on the run. Instead, he shot and killed Officer Donald Sahota just steps from his own front door. Alma McCarty dug into this report for us, and we do want to warn you, some of it may be difficult to hear.
Law enforcement had eyes on the robbery suspect, identified as Julio Segura.
This person's now running towards the residence there off of 84th.
That home turned out to be Officer Donald Sahota's. Drone video from overhead shows a confrontation between the off-duty officer and Segura. This as Clark County deputies approach the home.
Okay, you're going to have to run up. It's a little ways up there. They're still fighting.
Video shows one person run inside the home. It's the suspect, but in the dark, deputies don't appear to be able to tell. An SUV pulls up as the other person, who we now know was the off-duty officer, goes back for his gun.
Oh, he's running. Be careful, that's a gun right there, I think. He just picked it up.
A deputy exits the car. We're going to pause the video here, but seconds later, he draws his rifle and fires 4 rounds.
Shots fired.
I saw the flashes. Okay.
As I've seen the video and the report, it's quite clear that they thought that this individual was the person who presented the threat.
Dr. Keith Taylor is a professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice in New York City. He's followed this case, telling KGW the full release of this investigative report gives the public a better sense of what happened.
I cannot emphasize that enough. It is a severe tragedy, the loss of this officer's life.
It's not long before law enforcement on scene realized the man shot was Sahota as the suspect exits the house with his hands above his head.
My name is Julio Cesar Segura.
And Segura admits in the recording to stabbing Sahota.
I panicked, like both of us were in the wrong. I was in the wrong because I approached him in the middle of the night at his own household. So, yeah. I would try to get the suspect on the ground with the gun too.
Also in the report,
this has been very difficult, but I will do my best.
An interview with Deputy Jonathan Feller.
It's all very fluid, very fast.
Who fired the fatal shots.
So I believed that if that person got in that house, they would kill them. And I had to stop that person from getting in and hurting those innocent people.
Wow. Well, the suspect, Segura, faces multiple felony charges, including murder. Prosecutors believe the stab wound Segura allegedly inflicted on Sahota during their fight could have ended the officer's life if the deputy's bullets had not. Now, this report will be reviewed by outside prosecutors to determine if the shooting was justified, but at this point, Deputy Feller does not face any charges. Also this morning, police in Newport are dealing with an unusual mystery. Someone broke into a car and stole $1 million. But hold on, because it happened to be fake money. In fact, it was prop cash for movies. The bills were clearly marked for movie prop use only. Though you can see they look pretty real unless you check the details. Police are worried the thieves will try to pass that money off as real and end up duping local businesses, so be on the lookout for that. Well, if you're flying Alaska Airlines this weekend, you want to keep a close eye on your flight status. A pilot protest led the airline to cancel 120 flights up and down the West Coast on Friday, and more are expected this weekend. So far this morning, only a handful of flights are impacted. The reason seems like this one. Friday, Alaska Airlines pilots stood outside the terminal to push for changes to their contract. They say it is not competitive enough when it comes to attracting and keeping pilots.
The three main items are job security, work rules, and flexibility in our schedules.
Now, in a statement, Alaska Airlines said a new pilot contract remains a top priority. We put a package on the table that is competitive and addresses the issues most important to our pilots. The company went on to say they are still working to recover the over $2 billion in losses from the pandemic. And speaking of pandemic recovery, a new study out of the CDC reveals that many teenagers, even those who on the surface appear to be doing well, are in fact still struggling. As our Catherine Cook reports, it also shows why connecting with teens and listening is more critical now than ever.
In what feels like a clearing in the pandemic, we're seeing just how dark it got for many teens. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention this week released findings from a recent survey. They asked nearly 8,000 high school students to share how they felt in 2020 during the height of lockdown. The survey revealed abuse at home. 55% said they were cursed at or verbally insulted by an adult. More than 1 in 10 teens said they were physically abused, and 66% said they found it difficult to complete their schoolwork.
I would say that the study findings were pretty accurate for what we're seeing.
Amy Baker is a social worker on special assignment in the Beaverton School District. She knows teens are suffering.
And I think sometimes we forget that there's a corresponding science of resilience.
She says school staff members cling to that hope as they work to counter the pandemic's lasting effect on students.
Making sure that we provide as many opportunities as possible for connection, for meaningful relationship with positive adults. It's extremely powerful in mitigating the effects of trauma.
The CDC says it's unclear how significant a role the pandemic played in what the survey found, whether the pandemic was directly related to the abuse or if it had been going on before the lockdown. What is clear is not every teen felt the impacts of the pandemic equally. Take depression. The CDC says 45% of high school students reported feeling persistently sad or hopeless, and 1 in 5 had contemplated suicide. But it goes deeper than that. Of gay, lesbian, and bisexual teens surveyed, nearly half said they'd contemplated suicide. That's compared to 14% of heterosexual teens. And gender showed another disparity. More than 1 in 4 girls contemplated suicide. That's twice the rate of boys.
The statistics have always been alarming, and the pandemic has just exacerbated everything.
Emily Moser heads up the Youth Line program at Lines for Life. While COVID case numbers are dropping and kids are back in school, she says the CDC's findings underline an ongoing crisis.
I think we aren't really good to go right now. It's a bigger conversation now, and it's a conversation for everyone.
Youthline volunteers like Galena Simpson are having that conversation with their peers.
That isolation, it was brutal.
When she talks with teens who are struggling, Galena draws on advice she hopes adults will follow too. She calls it staying in the muck.
Let someone tell their story and to sit in the pain that they're experiencing and being able to validate that instead of going straight into problem solving. And the answer, I feel like, is so much more simple than people might think it is, but it really is to listen.
And when adults do that, Galena promises it means something to teens. She knows because they tell her.
They talk about that teacher that checked in on them when they saw that they were going through a really difficult time, or the counselor who reached out to them when they didn't even know anyone was paying attention.
In Southwest Portland, Catherine Cook, KGW News.
If you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of suicide, remember, you can always call this number anytime to be connected with mental health counselors. It is 1-800-273-8255. 800-273-855, or to make it easier to remember, that's 800-273-HELP. We'll be right back.